Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Addicts Truth Podcast. My name is Recovery John. Thank you for listening. We are sponsored today by Still Behavioral Health and Minds, and we're excited to speak with Ewa.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Another sober fit girl.
Yes.
All right. Well,
There's two of us today.
Two. We got the dream team in here. So I was definitely looking at your stuff because through Kat found you, and definitely motivating as well, and even more excited just to hear more about your story for people that I look up to and love the content you guys are putting out and the movement you have. So let's start. Let everyone know a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your childhood looked like.
So my name's Ewa with a W. That's because I was raised by very Polish parents who came here, and they had a very strict Eastern European traditional way of raising me, which kind of contributed to what happened later. They came here, they were working hard, so they were always out working. And I was raised mostly by my grandparents who were very opposite, very loving, not really strict. And that's what I was used to for a lot of my childhood, with kind of seeing my parents here and there when they would be home, which wasn't a lot. And then as I entered my teenage years is when my grandparents went back to Poland and I was left with my parents who, came in hot and were very strict with me and like what they expected. There was a lot of expectations. As a girl, I was expected to do it all, go to college, get a good job, get married, have kids by the time I'm like mid-20s, just do it all. And I was definitely the type of person that didn't like to listen to what was expected of me. And I definitely did rebel in my teenage years. And a big part of that was drinking and partying. And, when I think about it, I thought there was a time that it wasn't really problematic and I was just having fun. But now when I look at it from this sober lens, I could see that there was signs that I had a problem from the very beginning. My friends had to carry me home so many times because I was so blackout drunk I couldn't even stand. Constantly binge drinking, throwing up. And it got to the point where I woke up, I was 26 years old. I was still doing the same stuff I was doing when I was 14. And I just got so sick of it. And I knew I had to make a change.
What did childhood Ewa look like? What was like your dream job? Were you sporty or more of a girly girl?
So I was actually really smart in my elementary and middle school years. I got into a high school that was also an early college, and I didn't really want to go. I was in Catholic school, so I wanted to go with all of my friends that were going to the Catholic high schools. So I was really upset that my parents were like, no, you're going to go to this free school, and it's like, more challenging. So I went, and it was very challenging, and that's when I definitely saw myself rebelling. So I was more nerdy when I was younger. And then when I got to high school, I wouldn't say I was sporty. I definitely started going to the gym a little bit more when I was in high school, which is also when I started drinking. So that also led me into the yo-yo dieting cycles that I worked hard to get out of, because that was part of my drinking, was trying to punish myself with working out and restricting myself with food, which became its own toxic cycle. But for the most part, looking back at my childhood, there wasn't really anything that went really, really bad when I was growing up. It's just when I got to high school and I started partying and I started having, my mom and my dad coming in who weren't really there. They were supporting us, but not really raising us because they were busy working, coming in with their rules after being raised by our grandparents, which looked a lot different. I definitely noticed that side of me that wanted to rebel, wanted to break the rules. I did not want to follow what they wanted from me. And I think that like this stubborn mindset that I had, it's great in some ways, but I think it was really, really bad when I was stuck in that because I didn't want to hear anybody's opinion. Like I wanted to do the thing that nobody else wanted me to do. And that's what I think contributed a lot to my drinking and why it got worse.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I could relate because I saw anger. Like yours was rebellion. I mean, mine was kind of rebel too. But even before drugs and alcohol, for me, it was like anger.
Mhm.
Like you said, like you told me I couldn't do something, I'm gonna fight and
Yeah.
show you I can, or find a way to sneak out. Then came the rest. So when was the first time that you were introduced to alcohol?
I remember the first time I drank so vividly. I don't know why, but I do. I was like 14. I was with one of my friends at the time. We were at a park, and one of her friends raided the parents' liquor cabinet and had like water bottles of vodka and gin.
That
And
was
we
the way
were
to do
just
it back then.
like gin. And I never was a gin drinker. So that was, I don't know, my first thing I ever drank. I didn't care, obviously, at that point. But I just remember the feeling. I think the feeling, I'll never forget that feeling. It was this instant relief and almost like nothing mattered. Like all of the stress and anxiety that I had, it went away in that moment. And I got so addicted to that feeling. So looking back, I'm like, okay, yeah, after that, I only drank when I was partying. I only drank when I was hanging out with friends and everybody else was drinking. But it's funny that when I think back to the first time I drank, I don't hold on to the social aspect of it. What I really, really remember is that feeling that I had and knowing that, okay, this is something that I can do if I'm having a shitty day or if I'm feeling too stressed or overwhelmed. And it makes sense as to why I started using it later on as more of a coping mechanism and not a way to party or socialize how I thought I was.
Yeah, because I think the normal person, I struggle with that, is they're looking to drink for dinner, for a date, for girls' night out. You, me, it's like I'll never forget that feeling, like that escapism. Like I feel good now, I feel normal. How did things start to portray? Did you start drinking every day? Did you start just drinking at parties? How did that build up into being a problem?
So when I was in high school, definitely the first way I started noticing that alcohol was affecting me was my grades. I was cutting class all the time. I went from having straight A's to now I'm having D's and F's in certain subjects. I, just didn't really want to go to college. I had no motivation. I had no drive. That's something, I think the first thing that alcohol took away from me was like the drive to do anything. And I think I have a lot of regret around that to this day is, I almost felt like I didn't have what everybody else had at the time, which is knowing what they want, going to college, having that college experience. I mean, I'm glad I didn't have that college experience because it would have been bad. Like I know that I would have partied throughout college and gotten myself into a lot of trouble the way that I was drinking. But yeah, I think that was the first thing I noticed. And then after I graduated from high school and I did try to go to college for a little bit, I did get into a relationship that was unhealthy and it fueled my drinking even more because we kind of were just both in a bad place when it came to that. And I was miserable looking back at it. And that's exactly when it flipped for me in my adult life. When I was 19, 20 years old, I was no longer drinking to socialize or to party or, go to the high school parties, the college parties. I was drinking because I hated my life. I hated my job. I hated my relationship. I hated my life in general. And when I drank, I forgot all about that. Nothing mattered when I drank. So I kept drinking so that I could keep tolerating my life. I didn't think, oh, maybe I should, get out of this relationship. Maybe I should change my career, like figure out what I actually want, get some, career goals finally, because I really had none. And that was just not an option for me at the time. I just feel like I relied so much on drinking that it became my only way to cope. Like it was binge drinking. I wasn't everyday drinking. However, there was certain points in my drinking that I noticed I was drinking almost every day. And that's when I was going through it the most. So it really, my drinking went hand in hand with how I was feeling. The more anxious, the more stress I was feeling, the more I was drinking. And it didn't help that I was also working in hospitality at the time, and all of my friends were party friends. Everybody wanted to go out for drinks before and after, all weekend. So I was constantly around alcohol. And I also used that place as an escape. So because it was a place that like my drinking was okay, and everybody else around me was doing the same thing, I would just avoid seeing family members, my boyfriend at the time, my other friends, just so that I can drink and escape from the life that I was living. It truly became my biggest way to numb because I was just so miserable and unhappy.
I mean, I can relate to the restaurant business is toxic. I mean, that's a topic right
Oh,
there. Like I always say there's a bar in this town that I think we would have been more viral than Jersey Shore if you videotaped it. It was just alcohol, cocaine, sex. Like it was just so toxic in so many ways. Was that hard to get out of, or did you get sober when you were still doing that?
Actually still in it. So
All
I
right.
still, I got sober through working in hospitality. I still keep some shifts because I realized that it was really about the people and environments in sobriety that some were more triggering than others. So where I work now, I work with some of my closest friends who support my sobriety 100%. There's no pressure. They themselves are normal drinkers, so I'm not surrounded by people that have this same kind of problem that I noticed I had. And it's just not the same type of crazy places that I used to work in. And it's also, I enjoy it for the fact that it keeps me social and it keeps me kind of exposing myself to being in social situations and where alcohol is, because it made it a lot easier. And also seeing drunk people and seeing how they behave definitely keeps me sober now, because I think back to when that was me and I was doing that and I was like, I do not want to go back to this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open about it. I can relate so much to that because I wrote a sober book while bartending in the biggest place in Yonkers that were open till 4 a.m. And I don't know, people would be like, wow, how do you do that? I'm like, I kind of like that, like, I'm in the mix still because, like, if I could stay sober there, me watching Yankee game in my boring apartment, obviously I could stay sober there. So it kind of solidified it for me. And then same, I see dudes drunk and I'm like, wow, that's literally me. Like, I don't want to be, like, the first drink sounds good in my head, but then I see that dude throwing up in the bar. I'm like, nah, that's really me. So it keeps it real, And I'm sure you probably help people. Are you in a situation like that, if you don't mind me asking? Are you open with people like, oh, I don't drink and this is why, or no?
So it depends on the situation. Something that I learned in my own sobriety is I am in control over how much I share and with who I share when it comes to being in like those settings. For the most part, when I'm just, working and talking to people that are there, I don't really go into detail about it just because I feel like it opens the door to people to just like make you feel uncomfortable. So I do kind of just keep it at, I don't drink, My favorite thing is if somebody wants to take a round of shots together, I'm like, I can't, I'm driving. And then nobody asks any more questions after that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to encourage drunk driving. So, but when it comes to just me every day, coaching, me just being out and open, like I will talk about my sobriety all day, every day. That's because I held a lot of shame around it for a long time. And it took me a long time to get to a place where I'm proud of being sober and open about being sober. I didn't think I'd get there. I always struggled for the longest time until I got sober to accept that I have a problem, and I thought that it was just something that made me weak. But through all of that, I realized that sobriety is our biggest strength. You know, it's our superpower. It's something that we should be loud and proud about, because when I was down and I was questioning my own drinking, which is another thing I realized, is like the people that are questioning their own drinking are always going to ask the most questions about your sobriety. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear from people that are sober and are going through their own journey, because that's what helped me be like, yes, like I can relate. I'm going through the same thing, and I see now that there's hope.
So you could tell too, because I can tell when certain questions are asked. I'm like, this person's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
they're not being nosy. They need the answers.
Yes.
Yeah. As I always wondered if that was just me, because people ask all the time.
Oh yeah. And at first I think we take it personally because we're like they're judging us. Like I always thought, like, if people are asking a lot of questions about my sobriety, they must be judging. But then the more I like realize, I'm like, wait a second, this has nothing to do with me and my sobriety right now. This is this person being curious about sobriety and wanting more information on that, because from what I've seen, a lot of people have their own doubts about their own drinking. And I think, you know, if you are starting to doubt your own relationship with alcohol, then I think it's really important for you to get the support, talk to people that are going through it, and figure it out. You know, you don't have to have the answers day one. You don't have to have it all figured out. But yeah, you definitely see the difference.
Yeah, and I always say too, if you question yourself at all, you have a problem. Like the normal person that just has a few never questions, like, am I an alcoholic?
Oh, yeah.
But that's funny, yeah, because I always wondered. And that, I mean, a year or two when I started to realize now I'm a pro. Like once certain questions are out, I'm like, oh, you need help, or you're sober curious. So it's interesting. So then, you know, it got ugly after your college relationship, stuff like that. Where was your change, or was it just one day, or slowly you had to try a couple times? What did getting sober look like?
So the biggest thing for me, I was 26 when I got sober, and I loved to act like I was okay. I think that's what kept me drinking for as long as it did, was I was lying to everybody around me. I was acting like I was fine, because I never wanted to be that person that worried anybody or made people feel bad for me, or I did not want to need anybody. That was the biggest thing. I was so stubborn in the fact that I didn't want to need anybody. I didn't want to express that I might not be doing okay, because, I mean, looking back now at when I was growing up, showing these types of emotions was like, just suck it up, figure it out, like, stop. Like, you don't have to be emotional about it. You don't have, like, there's always a solution that you can figure it out on your own. So I was like, okay, like, I just need to figure it out on my own. And from, I would say I was 19 to 25, that's exactly what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out on my own. And I told myself everything. I told myself, if I just drink more water when I'm going out and drinking, then I'll be fine. If I just eat a little bit more before I go out drinking, then I won't black out and I won't drink so much. If I just take a break, if I just take like a month off and then I like fix some things in my life and I start to feel better, then I can drink and it won't be that bad. Obviously moderating. I was like, I can moderate. I just have to be stronger. And I would literally go into the bathroom and give myself a pep talk before any event and be like, we're going to go here. We're going to have 3 drinks and then you're going to stop. We're not taking it too far. I told myself this almost every time I drank. And every single time I took it too far. It was very rare for me to have the 2 drinks. And when I did have the 2 drinks, I was miserable. I just did not enjoy having 2 drinks. Kind of like I think you were saying earlier, the idea that people are like having a cocktail or like having a glass of wine with their meal. I'm like, why? Like, what's the point of that? If you're not going to drink the bottle, then what is the point, right? And that mindset is, I still like have that mindset, you know, like that's why I know if I were to drink today, it wouldn't get better. Like I wouldn't have this, now that I have over 3 years, it's not going to be like, oh, you fixed it. Like I always thought that like, I just need to fix my mindset and then I can drink. And I realized that's not the case. I was suffering for a lot from panic attacks towards the end of my drinking. And on the last day I drank, I was out with my friends and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go home. I said bye to everybody and I actually got into a cab and I ended up in the emergency room where I was like, something's going on. I'm having a stroke. I was telling them stroke or heart attack or something because like the physical symptoms were horrible. And they're like, no, like they did all the tests. They're like, you're having a panic attack. They gave me an IV. They sent me home. And I was blackout when I was at the hospital. I kind of came back to it when I was in the cab. And what did I do? I ordered McDonald's. Like I was already so used to this being a thing that it didn't even shock me that that happened. And I was still like kind of delusional that night. But when I woke up, I had this feeling that I didn't have before where I just felt like this calmness of like, okay, this is done. Like I can't do this anymore. Whereas like in the past, every single time I would wake up from that, I would be like, I'm never drinking again. Like it's done. This time around, it was just like this calm feeling of like, it's over. I can't pretend anymore. I have my mom calling me, asking me because I was still on her insurance at the time, why there's a $2,000 insurance charge from the hospital. Am I okay? You know, I was living with my friend who was like, what is going on? Like, you're not okay. We can tell. Turns out all of my friends could tell I was not okay. So I was only fooling myself. And I think that was the last day that I was lying to myself. From that day on, I started being really real with myself about this is a problem and we're going to do something about it because I was constantly making excuses up until that day.
And it's funny that, you know, that's so important that everyone else can see it and you can't. Like,
Yeah.
I can relate to, I mean, all the stupid excuses, like, oh, I'm only going to drink this much. I'm only going to do that. But I thought no one knew for me too. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'm slick. Or I literally believed myself that my life with heroin or alcohol wasn't that bad. But everyone else is like, you're a disaster, bro. So I can relate to that a lot. And I tell myself now, I'm very open, probably too honest about things. And I'm just like, people like, when new people meet me, like, would you drink? Or like, I'm like, you know what? Let me think about it. And I really think about drinking. And still to date, 6 years sober, first thing I think about is like, let's get fucked up. And I'm like, no, I still can't drink safely. If I could ever feel like truly with myself that, yeah, a half a drink's fine. No, I think about the fifth one off the rip.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And that's where it's like, that honesty with yourself brings long-term sobriety because it's like, I can have that dialogue with myself, but I'm honest. Like, no, I'm not having one for lunch. I'm going to end up in a hotel at midnight,
Yeah.
you know? So then you finally decided, what was your route? How do you start to work on yourself?
So despite everything, when I got sober, I still thought I could do it alone. I still did not look for programs. I didn't reach out to anybody else that's sober. The only thing I did was scroll on TikTok, scroll on Instagram, look at like other sober people talking, but not something that's interactive. So nothing that like people could, you know, I could have a conversation with somebody that's sober. It was all just me taking in sober content. And so I was able to do that for 6 months and get some sober. I was isolating a lot in the beginning too, just avoiding people and places that I knew were going to be triggering. And, you know, I got to a point 6 months into it and I'm like, I can't keep doing this alone. Like I was like, okay, this is great at first. But then I was getting to a place where I was like, okay, like I'm about to hit a wall and sobriety is not like from my perspective, my own sobriety could not be possible without community, without having other people there, because I tried to do it alone. And it was just lonely. It felt like I was, you know, once again, for me, it felt like sobriety was still a weakness and I still held a lot of shame around my drinking past and everything. I didn't have anywhere to unpack it. And I was in therapy for a while. But I think, you know, with therapy, it's very good at like unpacking a lot. However, when it came to my drinking, I just remember kind of sharing how I feel like I have a problem. And my therapist kind of being like, well, did you try moderating? And I was like, a little bit too much, you know? So I knew I needed other sober people. I needed to be able to talk to other sober people. And Kat was somebody that I was seeing on TikTok a lot. We ended up connecting. I ended up joining Sober Fit Girl, and that was the game changer for me because that finally helped me realize that like there's more people out there that are living happy, fulfilling lives, sober, that are, you know, just like me, my age, single, and just doing all of these amazing things because I just thought my life was going to be miserable. As I'm sure a lot of people that are first getting sober, they think that this is the end of their life. But truly, like now I see that this was the beginning of my life. You know, I was finally able to live. I felt like I was just floating through life for the longest time when I was drinking and just trying to survive every single day. But when you get sober with a community, no matter what community that is, you see what can happen every single day by like seeing the people that are around you and are living happy, sober lives. And you're like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, connection, they say the opposite of addiction is
Yeah.
connection. So, and I did the same thing. So I totally get it. Just trying by yourself. And I have so many people that reach out for help. And sadly, that's a mental illness. Like right away, they say, oh, I'm going to try it myself for a while. And I always say, I pray I get to hear from you in 6 months when you're still struggling, because that means you're at least living. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, Kat's amazing. Your guys' program's amazing. Can't wait to dive into that right now quickly. But first, let's talk about what that did for you, or did you find success right away? Did you relapse a little? How'd that go?
So from that day that I talked about earlier, I was sober from that day. However, before that, I did take breaks. I did try to get sober, and I never, I ended up drinking again. But even in like those short amounts, I did 40 days one time, and I made a lot of smart decisions in those 40 days. Like I left that horrible relationship I was in. I realized I needed to figure out my career goals and change a lot of things and put up boundaries with people. And that was just in 40 days. So I did keep drinking after that for like 4 more years. But every single time I would think about maybe I should stop drinking again and, get a little sober curious, I would always be able to think back to those 40 days and be like, that was kind of cool. Like, I felt a lot more clear-headed. I made some good decisions. I wonder what would happen if I did it longer. So when I went into, the day that was my last day, which was March 13th is my sober date, 2022. And from that day, I don't know, I didn't even set like sober goals for myself. I didn't know if I was going to do it forever. I didn't know if I wanted to do it for just a couple of months. I think I was just so weak and tired that I was just like, well, I'm at bottom right now. So there's really not much lower I could go. Like I didn't want to keep digging. I was done. So I did stick to it. And I think what really, really helped was I did start seeing things coming in slowly. First thing was obviously with like fitness and with my weight. I was a yo-yo dieter, so I would fluctuate a lot with my weight. I would have an event coming up and I would just go to the gym twice a day, really just starve myself when it comes to food. And yeah, maybe I would lose 10 pounds quickly, but it never stayed off, and then I would just gain it back. And I would punish myself because I would binge drink all weekend, then restrict all week. And it was just a miserable cycle. So when I first found consistency in my fitness, nutrition, sobriety, that's when I started seeing, the weight coming off and staying off, and light in my eyes again. And, my skin started glowing again. And I haven't seen that. I didn't even want to look in a mirror when I was drinking. I couldn't look in the mirror because I didn't recognize who I was looking at. Like I was so detached from my body, from my mind, from everything. So I think, for me, I didn't see everything coming in right away. But something as like amazing as the career for me, like when I was drinking, I was still, it's funny because I was like I wanted to be a health coach so bad when I was really down bad. And like, who the hell is going to take advice from the drunk girl at the bar, right? So that was always something that I wanted to do. But sobriety finally allowed me to fix my own health and work on my own health to get me to that point. And then just like the fact that, you know, everything aligned perfectly. And then Kat came to me when I was over a year. When was this? Like probably approaching 2 years sober with like the opportunity to be a coach. And I was like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, is this really happening? Because this is something I wanted for a very long time. And it just happened. You know, same with relationships. I was struggling. I think I was kind of in acceptance that I'm like, all right, well, just like this isn't going to happen for me and anything like that. And, you know, I got into the relationship that I never thought that I would get, you know, with somebody that is kind and, you know, perfect for me in every single way. And it's just crazy because I think that it's hard to see what's coming in when you're starting, because this is all stuff that happened years into me being sober. So I didn't really see much other than like, you know, my body felt better. I had a lot more time and energy. I was connecting with all these amazing women and traveling to all the places I wanted to travel to. And that's all amazing goals that I had for myself. But like the more you keep going, the more things are coming in. And like I truly think that if you stick with sobriety, if you just allow yourself to trust the process, you will get everything you want. Like everything will come in. Sometimes things and people that you didn't even know you needed will come in because you're aligning to who you truly are. And, you know, the more you stay sober and you really, really allow yourself to see what can happen, you're going to get surprised.
Yeah. No, that touches me so much because I just, while you were talking, you just brought up all these feelings and emotions for me that I remember crying at like a 20-year-old man and my mom because I was just like, just tickets, warrants. But I was like, there's no way. I just looked at it one day. I remember I was just overwhelmed. I was like, there's no way I come back from this, Mom. Like, I just don't see it. And now, I think it was like 2.5 years in sobriety. My therapist, I had my first real panic attack in my life because I probably numbed everything else all the other years. And it was because things were coming so fast. She was like, I don't think your mind realizes, you know, like, this is real. Like, people are asking for your autograph. Like, can you sign my book? Can you do that? I remember I just had a random panic attack, and she was like, I think your mind doesn't believe that, like, this is how good your life is. But it does. It takes that grit in the beginning. that hill is big, and you're like, fuck, I don't think I'm going to get to the other side. And then you rough it out, and you have support. And it's so, I mean, I love the relationship part. Like, yeah, it's just like, God will give you what you deserve, I feel like. And, you know, sobriety just unlocks all that. And it takes a while. God's got to line it up, or life, whatever you believe in.
And I'm a very impatient person, so this was really hard.
Same.
Waiting was really hard.
I'm at 6 years, I'm banging my head on the wall about relationships and things that haven't fully come. I mean, it all comes different for everyone, different times. But I love, you know, it motivated me to hear you talk about all that. Even where I'm at, that's just sick. And what a thing. I mean, how cool the place I got you sober.
Yeah.
You're a coach at now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no cooler come up story than that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that for you. So before we get to our questions, talk about, you know, before we get to that, I definitely want to hear what it's like for you now. You're a coach, you know, what's it like helping the girls? What's it entail?
So with the coaching, I get to be working one-on-one and messaging with a lot of the clients in the program. And that really, as much as maybe I help them, they help me so much because, you know, just hearing, I think one thing that I struggled with for the longest time was I told myself that my sobriety doesn't have any value until I get to a certain mark. So at first it was like 6 months, then it was a year. And I really was a strict day counter, like, you know, and I think that I couldn't even speak on it. Like I thought, okay, you could start making videos about it when you're 1 year sober. Like, you know, don't even think about it now. But what I learned from girls that just sign up and like they're mindset on things, and just like some of the things that they say on day one is what keeps me sober. So, as much as I want to be there and support them on their journey and, motivate them, inspire them, because it's hard. There's days that you just don't feel like it. And having a drink sounds good, and that's when you really have to lean on your community and the people around you. So being able to work one-on-one and kind of like messaging, checking in with each other. I get to host calls and, have all of these ladies just on a call and talking about things that are hard, things that suck, and how we can deal with it. Has been really, really amazing. And the community is growing. And I just love that people are becoming more loud and proud about being sober. Including me. I mean, I held so much shame around it for the longest time. And through this job and through, working directly with women that are struggling, it's helped me realize that what did Eva at day one and her sober journey need? And I want to be that for, whoever is starting and needs inspiration. Like, with posting videos on TikTok and Instagram, like I want to reach that one girl, that one person that is struggling today to be sober. And, if I could say something to help them that day to not drink, then that video did its job. So I just think right now, what is helping me stay sober and what gives me purpose is helping other people stay sober with me. I think that that's what keeps me going and keeps me inspired on my own journey too.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, it's just service to others. You guys are doing amazing work. I have a strong feeling you guys are just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You guys are definitely we talked about the sober dude. I mean, it's only been a year or two of this part. I mean, I could tell you guys are definitely going to keep blowing up, and it's the amount of souls you guys are helping. You probably have no idea. And it's cool just to be a part of and watch from my end. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Before we ask questions, where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram and TikTok. It's Eva with a W, PIET_ for both Instagram and TikTok. And then also the Sober Fit Girl Instagram and TikTok as well.
Yes. And we didn't get to talk a lot, but you also you're on the podcast as well, right?
Yeah, we started the podcast a couple months ago, and it was just honestly to be able to come together and share our stories and talk and help with, what we're going through. And it also, like I said, helps me kind of let go of the shame that I've been feeling about my own sobriety. And, there was a time where I was like, you couldn't pay me to come on to a podcast and talk about what my secrets or my problems are. Like I was the type of person that would never want to talk about them. Now it's like, I'll air it out to anybody that wants to listen.
Same. I'm the same way. Yeah. No, and that's it's freeing. It feels amazing. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I appreciate us connecting.
I appreciate you for having.
Always. No, it's I know a lot of people will see this and they'll love your story, and hopefully some more girls will reach out and get what you guys are offering. For the 3 questions, what is something in early sobriety, if you could redo it, you would do differently?
Definitely find community sooner. I feel like it was still kind of a dark time for me the first 6 months in my head because I was overthinking everything. I was isolating. I was in my own head. So definitely finding community sooner, asking for help sooner would have, I think, definitely made things feel a lot lighter.
Awesome. And what is your go-to favorite saying or quote that you like?
Right now, just do it scared. I think that there's a lot of fear around sobriety. There's a lot of fear around, well, what if I lose all my friends? What if I lose my partner? What if I lose my career, everything, if I get sober? Just do it scared. Do it scared because sobriety is uncomfortable. It does require you doing hard things. And even if you're scared, just do it.
I mean, fear is going to stop you no matter what. It's not worth it. It's fake emotions. And lastly, what would you say to someone today that's struggling or needs some motivation or help?
I think the main thing is it's not too late and you don't have to do it alone. I know I told myself at 26, I was like, it's too late for you. Like you should already be at this place in life and you're nowhere near it, so you might as well just give up. It's never too late. No matter how old you are, no matter what your life circumstances are, it's never too late to make a change. And you also do not have to do it alone. Like this is just one thing. I know you can do everything else alone, but this is just one thing you can't do alone.
Yeah. I love you said never too late, because I walked in an AA meeting and I was saying that at 28. I was the youngest person there.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, you better get it now. You're getting it young, you know? So I think that's why, you know, I love stories we were talking about, like you and Kat. It's seeing these young faces talk about it, freeze it for people even younger to realize I could get it now at 22 or 20, you know? So it's amazing. Can't wait to see where you guys go.
I'm excited.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. Everyone, check out Ewa. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for listening to Addict Truth Podcast today. We're sponsored by Still Behavioral Health and Mind. And reach out if you are struggling. We love you all. We'll talk to you soon.